Let's do this thing.
Should we do this thing?
Yeah.
Nice. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the lying down. Yeah, the whole. It's the office, isn't it, where Gervais is on a table?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like that. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the lying down. Gervais on a table. Corridor of uncertainty. We're actually not too far away from an actual. Well, it's not really a cricket pitch, is it? It's more of a straight line of tarmac.
Slab of
Yeah. But we did a bit of cricket. We attempted some cricket. We were just getting into the groove.
bowled, I batted.
Yeah, for about what, maybe five or six.
Yeah.
And how would you describe it? Shoddy cricket, maybe.
Yeah, I think you actually got me out. I think I edged one, but it was one of two balls that actually landed on the cut strip.
Yeah, I think I probably gave away quite a few wide.
But a couple more injuries and or nightclub incidents, we might be in line for a test call up as it stands.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll get onto that. But so we've come outside, as you can see, to do the pod in the sun. And actually, as we got here, the sun was out and it was beaming. Even though it was cloudy when we left, we thought we timed it terribly. We actually timed it quite well, and now the sun has somewhat sunk behind some clouds, but we might see it at some point soon.
But the moon is out.
The moon is directly in front of us. That's pretty cool.
Amazing last night. Did you see it?
I saw it was like a DreamWorks moon.
Yeah, but it was giant, really low in the sky.
Beautiful.
At one point, or when I left work anyway.
So that's the moon. Now we're going to
covered.
We've covered the moon. We've touched on the sun. How do you go from the sun and the moon to cricket? Is there any sort of analogy that can be done with that?
Well, I think there are three
vital parts.
There are three constants in life. I think the sun rises, the moon rises, and England lose a test match.
There we go. Yes, Charlie, well done. That was brilliantly done. The title of the doc is England trounced at the Oval. So coming into this, of course, there was an incident. There was a slight incident, which we weren't able to fully cover. We were able to fully cover in the last one, but now we can do a bit more because there's been announcements about the next test. But let's talk about going into this last test. Obviously, no Stokes, no Atkinson. Let's have a talk about England's much changed 11.
Yeah. Any time that Ben Stokes isn't in the team, it means you have to make probably two changes to the lineup just because of the balance that he provides. Means that you got to rethink your batting lineup and your bowling attack. And England did just that. We talked about the few ways in which they might do so. Just have a drink of water.
Glug, glug, glug.
Yeah, we talked about the ways that they might do that in the last. And I talked about, it making a little bit more sense for Jordan Cox to come in as the replacement batter at number 7, just because he's got a few more gears, and I'm just not really sure that Rue would be a number 7. And they did that. And then, as a result of not swapping Stokes out for a bowling option, it would have had to be a spinner, really, Rayan Ahmed. It meant that they had 4 out-and-out seamers and no frontline spinner, basically. And then Ollie Robinson pulled up injured, which may become a feature of his return to Test match cricket, unfortunately. It really feels like, no one's got the will for it anymore. Like, other players get sympathy when they're injured, and for Ollie Robinson, it's just for fuck's sake. Yeah. Like, as if he's done it personally. But, it raises questions about his fitness once again, and will continue to do so. I need to check, actually, if he's in the squad for the next test. We'll get on to that, but I think it's...
We should say...
He's back in the squad. He's back in the squad. We'll
It was about how long ago was it that squad was announced?
About half an hour.
Ago?
So yeah, we've done. Oh no, it's not been 10 minutes since we were in the house, has it? About an hour ago. Yeah, you're right. It's just time.
To be honest, I have no confidence in my ability.
No, you were a lot closer than I, because it was 20 minutes ago when I said 20 minutes ago, and that was not 10 minutes ago because we were in the house. So yeah, Ollie Robinson was out also, which meant that they already rushed back in Archer when he probably wouldn't have played this test to cover for Atkinson, and then Matt Fisher, who I was sort of saying, is the spare bowler in this squad, was used, and then Sonny Baker, who we said will probably play some level of test matches in this series because England don't just, put a youngster in the squad and leave them there. They usually chuck him in. So he was chucked in favour of Shoaib Bashir because, it was felt that, with Stokes missing, you needed to have a 4-seam attack, and that Bashir was sort of the man that could make way. Then it was further complicated by the fact that Jamie Smith had to go on paternity leave, which is how it's a weird little bit of symmetry or finality maybe, because Jacob Bethel got his opportunity in New Zealand a couple of summers ago because Jamie Smith went on paternity leave, which meant that Jordan Cox was in line for a debut as the wicket-keeping replacement, and then he broke his finger, so then he couldn't do that. So he's had to wait another 2 years to make his debut, but he finally got it this week. But it also just led me to think, I know it's harder for a cricketer because it's a year-round sport these days, but I think he's got his timing slightly off. He's only been a Test cricketer for 2 and a bit years, and he's already missed Test matches for the birth of 2 children. Then maybe there's a gap that you could have slotted those children into, is all I'm thinking.
Yeah, he could have scheduled the lovemaking sessions.
Yeah, well, Anton Griezmann, perfect example. Griezmann.
Griezmann.
Do you know about Anton Griezmann?
I don't know anything about Anton Griezmann.
Anton Griezmann's first 3 children were all born on the same day.
That is pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah, the 8th of June, I think it is.
Wow.
But I think...
And is that to avoid a clash with the season? Because
I imagine, I do think that footballers give birth in the off-season. I imagine. I'm making that up, but it makes sense. They don't give birth. Well, the men don't give birth.
Yeah, exactly.
But we were talking about Jeremy Doku earlier, weren't we? He's come under a lot of fire. We were talking about the difference between football and cricket. It does feel like players missing cricket matches for the birth of children is accepted, but Doku's under a lot of fire for it.
Yeah, he has come under a lot of fire for it, and also it's a big quarter-final in the World Cup, I suppose, I guess with cricket in a way, a test sort of is a part of a bigger whole maybe, and if you're missing a quarter-final and you get knocked out, well, that's it, you're out of the World Cup. Mm-hmm. And you could say, well, if Doku was there, he would have made a difference, whereas you could say, well, Jamie Smith being out can return later down the line and make a difference.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, is he in the squad as well?
I guess there was 2 names we were focusing on, weren't?
Yeah, Jamie Smith's back in as well. Okay, we'll talk about the squad at the end, but yeah, okay. So yeah, that was the team. So it sort of ended up, through no fault of England's really. With, it was just unfortunate that once the decision had been made to suspend Stokes and Atkinson, to have an injury and a paternity thing crop up, it just meant that England were going in with a very, very inexperienced team, and maybe this is this sort of level of changes that some people expected or wanted after the Ashes, like a full reset. And I think, to be honest, this match proved that they were right to stick with their guns. Yes,
it does certainly seem that way, doesn't it? But another thing that it meant, all this sort of pre-game furore and the incident meant that it paved the way for a certain Joe Root to return to the captaincy, which didn't go very well.
No, it really gave me flashbacks. I think, even the fact that he was walking out to bat at, nothing for 2, that was just the whole last few years of his captaincy, maybe more, was just exactly that. It was, shit, here we go again meme. There was one of them made that was always shared around on Twitter that was just him running out to bat with that underneath.
Yeah.
So I think, it just reminded me of every reason why it didn't work really for Joe Root. I just think he's not got the command over the team.
This is a good position, isn't it?
Sure. At least you're facing away from the camera genitally. He just doesn't have that sort of natural gravitas or seem like a leader of men in the way that Stokes does. And of course, it's made even harder by the fact that this is Stokes' team now.
Yes.
But I think, as we'll get on to.
He
looked like he was maybe trying to ape some of Stokes' tactics and fields, but that he was maybe misunderstanding the fundamental reason why they worked or misimplementing them at the wrong times.
I see. Can you give us some examples of that? Because I wouldn't.
Yeah, we'll get onto it in baffling tactics on day 2. But for example, one that they were really pointing out, something that Stokes has done quite a lot that is quite rare. He used it most famously in the Pakistan away series, and a little bit in the following Ashes, was to have catchers in front of the bat. So usually, you're mid on and mid off. They'd be catching, if they just cloth one up in the air trying to hit over the top, then they're a catching fielder. But other than that, they're usually a defensive fielder there to stop runs being scored on the drive.
Right.
But what Stokes did was bring them in to like a catching mid-on and mid-off, which means they're almost like they're past the stumps on the non-striker's end.
Okay.
And then it meant that, if you popped one up in the air trying to play a defensive stroke, you would get caught by those.
Is that silly mid-off, or is that when you're really close to them?
Maybe. I think they use the word catching. Silly might be something else, but
in my head, and I don't know if this is true, silly mid-off was like when you stand pretty close to, like they could just drill you in the face.
Yeah.
And you stand really close to the...
Yeah, it's probably not quite that, because it wouldn't be like wearing helmets or anything.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you would wear a helmet in that situation. Let's have a look.
No, not that. Where's... Oh, fuck it, who knows? But, the thinking behind that is, in Pakistan, like an Asian wicket with low bounce, where you're not going to get... you're probably not going to get an edge because the pitch is too true, and even if you do, the pitch is slow and low, and it wouldn't carry to a conventional slip anyway. So get the catches in front of the bat, because it's slower, the ball's way less likely to fly off the edge. It's way more likely to just hit the bat and deflect back forwards.
Right.
And Mark Butcher and others were pointing out on commentary that a wicket like the Oval, where it is fast and bouncy, at least to begin with, you shouldn't have them there because that's not where the ball's going to go, for example. And he was doing that on day one, but that just seemed like a good example of things that he'd seen Ben Stokes do, and he thought,
I'll try that then, yeah.
But he, I guess, fundamentally misunderstood why they worked when they did.
Interesting. You would have thought that he would know that.
Well, he knows everything there is to know about cricket, I'm sure, or close to it. But I think even someone like a Harry Brook, I don't think captaincy is something that you necessarily learn. I think obviously you're not ready for it when you're younger. You grow into it, into the role of a leader. But I also think, on the tactical aspect of it, a lot of it is gut feel. Yeah. And just having the conviction to just back a plan. And that's the thing, I think, Stokes does a lot of the same plans that Root does. They both like using the short ball to the lower order. And to be fair, Stokes has got it wrong at points and got huge flack for it. But I think he does so with a conviction and a knowledge of why it works, whereas Root just does things to try things.
Right.
Or he follows the ball around. That's a big thing in captaincy. Even Virat Kohli was accused of that, of, if a ball goes through a gap, then you plug that gap the next ball with the fielder, and then it goes somewhere else. And it's like, at some level, it's like you're never going to...
You'd a plan.
You're always 2 steps behind, and you're never going to get a wicket.
Yeah, you need to get out
that way. Whereas Ben Stokes has got a lot of credit for thinking out batsmen or buying wickets, where it's like, well, we'll just bowl short, and I know you're going to hit like 4 or 5 sixes before you get out, but you will get out.
Yeah. Cool. That was very interesting, Charlie. I enjoyed that. That's why you asked me what flatter to deceive means. So, a first day that flattered to deceive, which means...
it means what you...
It looks better
than it was.
Than it actually was.
Yeah. And I think that's a perfect way to describe day one of this test, because New Zealand were 282 for 7. And I think, BBC were even reporting, they've made a good start to life without Ben Stokes. But when you actually go through and look at those wickets, there's ones caught down the leg side, there's ones where the batsman just gave their wicket away. Jacob Bethel burgled 2 wickets at the end of the day, like bowling his spin. One of them was a full toss that got top edged. So I wasn't, particularly massively impressed with England. I thought they were lucky, really, to be in the situation we're in. We're on the flight path again.
Yeah, we are. I think we're even more underneath it than we were before. That plane, I believe, pretty much directly flew over us.
But that's very fitting for the Oval, because something I noticed watching this game that I'd never really realised before is it's directly under the Heathrow flight path. And even though you don't hear the planes, because I guess they're too high, you just see a perfect plane shadow just go boom, like that across the ground, like every 20 minutes.
That must be... I guess that's more off-putting for a commentator or a viewer than a player.
Yeah, I guess if you're under it, you wouldn't really notice. But if the camera angle's right, you literally just see like...
Yeah.
And apparently it's going like 270 miles an hour or something like that, because
fast,
it's like slowing down into Heathrow.
I mean, the fact that it's slowing down to 270 miles an hour. They go, what, 500, 600 miles an hour at full speed?
I think so, yeah.
That's crazy. They must be faster than the speed of sound, because the sound is on their tail. Yes? No?
No, I think the sound barrier is like 1,000.
Is it? Is the sound barrier?
Or I think jets, like some planes break the sound barrier, but I don't think they all do. I think it's like fighter jets do.
What is the sound barrier? Let's have a look. Let's see what the sound barrier is all about. What's the sound barrier saying?
Because don't you hear like an explosion of something?
Yeah, sonic booms. Yeah. You can generate sonic booms. 767 miles an hour. How fast is this is important cricket research. The average, what would you call it? Like commercial jet?
Yeah.
Commercial jet. It'll be slower than that, surely. But yeah, 575 mile an hour. Still quite quick. Let's say that.
It's pretty quick. Here comes
another one, yeah. But that's just taken off, so that won't be going at 500 mile an hour yet.
No.
We've somewhat touched on the baffling tactics of day 2.
Yeah, but there's more examples, I think. I think day 1, I was already a bit bit worried, but it's like you've got away with it to an extent. You just got to mop up the tail now. But that was something that Joe Root was never very good at as a captain. Again, it's not something that Ben Stokes has nailed either, but it feels a lot more kind of rudderless under Root. And it really reminded me of my university days, wild that they were, where to my shame it was a lot more regular that I would not manage to wake up in time for the day's play to start at 11 o'clock.
But that's
seems
life
crazy
at the
now.
time.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't seem crazy to me at the moment.
Well, yeah, that's true, but you have good reason, I guess.
I suppose.
But yeah, it felt like it was quite common an occurrence while I was at uni to wake up about an hour or so into the day's play and check the score, and we haven't taken any wickets.
Yeah.
And we're meant to be bowling out the tail, and it happened again. Because, I did wake up really late because I had my spotlight situation and woke up about midday the next day, and we hadn't taken a wicket, and they'd piled on loads of runs. And there was just a few things that were really confusing. Well, they started with bouncers, which I think was just the wrong call. New Zealand showed us what a good line and length could do on this pitch consistently, and it won them the game. He didn't start with his best bowlers. Jofra Archer was conspicuous in his absence. That was kind of explained away by a really intense 8-over spell that he bowled at the end of day 1 to Glenn Phillips, but he didn't manage to get him out. He bowled a lot of bouncers that apparently just really took... Oh, the bat's gone.
Oh, we lost the bat.
Yeah, but apparently that just really took it out of him. But then, people were saying, well, you should have really planned ahead and thought that, you shouldn't be bowling Joff for 8 hours if he's not going to be ready. 8 hours? 8 overs. If he's not going to be...
That'll be a hell of a spell.
Joff for 8 hours.
Hell of a spell.
If that then means he's not going to be ready for the next day. There's some interesting backstory to that, really, with Root and Jofra, because Root is honestly, in some quarters, even in the mainstream media, I think, tacitly blamed for Archer's injury absence because of the way he used him when he was captain, that he just bowled him way too long, 40 odd overs in a test match, and just mismanaged him, basically. Yeah. But I think it's unfair on Root because, everyone just loves watching him bowl, and obviously if you've got a weapon like that, you want to use him. You just need to be a little bit more restrained, and I think, maybe an 8-over spell at the end of a day is a bad idea. But then, we see the next day, he's not bowling, and everyone goes, well, where's Jofra?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you can't have it both ways. Either he's bowling or he's not, and it felt like either was Root's fault, so I have a bit of sympathy for him there. Then he gave Jacob Bethel the new ball, 3 or 4 overs in. Which again, if Stokes does it, it's inspired, but it just felt like he didn't really know why he was doing it. It was the same. That was another really good example actually that I missed about from day 1 of him doing things because he thought Stokes would do it. Is that he bowled Harry Brook with 7 men around the bat,
right? And
it's kind of famous that Harry Brook bowled first or second change in the first test of the Ashes in 2023. They hadn't even brought Robinson or anyone on. He just gave Harry Brook a go, and everyone was like, "Wow, this guy's a genius."
Yeah,
he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like he was doing stuff for the sake of it, and then just leaked loads and loads of runs with the bouncer theory, and then by the time he sort of brought his quicks back on, they eventually got the business done, and it's like
could have done this a little bit earlier.
It's just overthinking it. Start the next day with a spell, even if it's a short spell, from whichever seamers were your 2 best the day before, and then bring on the other seamers and go from there, really.
Do you think he was trying to sort of implement Stokes' tactics because he wanted an element of continuity. He wanted it to feel like I'm actually just deputising. This is not a Joe Root captaincy situation. This is I'm in for Stokes, but here's Stokes' game plan.
Yeah, potentially. Maybe he felt obliged. And of course, he's still got McCullum, there. And I think he even ran upstairs to chat to McCullum at one point. So yeah, I think that's definitely potentially true. But yeah, and maybe just didn't want to see like he was rocking the boat. But I think if there was, a clear Root philosophy, then he would have used it. But I just don't think that he ever really kind of came across one in his 5 odd years of captaincy.
And he captained for a long time, didn't he? So
he did 60. He's got the most tests, about 64. I think this might have been his 65th, and the most wins, but also the most losses.
Interesting.
So he did captain for a long time, but as I said last time, it was more just the absence of any other options. Because, it's kind of thought that a captain needs to be a batsman, which on one level is kind of stooped in the sort of classism that harks back right to the start of cricket. But on another level, it's just practical because, bowlers miss matches and you need someone who's going to be in the team every game. So a lot of the time, it's just Root was the only guy guaranteed to be in the team every game.
Yeah.
And so he was captain. But obviously, we all love Joe Root. No one thinks any less of him because of this game. And he was dealt a very hard hand.
Yeah.
And, he was in the shadow of Stokes. He had a very young team. He had no... The problem as well with Stokes being out is then you can't pick a spinner. Again, Root was never great at captaining spin, but it's like he's hamstrung in that way because, he has to have a seam attack just by the very nature that Stokes isn't in there. So... yeah, I think he was dealt a shit hand and he couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah. It's very warm now, isn't it? We've got the sun at our backs. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the... I did put some sun cream on the back of my neck, but I haven't put anything on the top of my head, which is something that, as you pointed out to me, I'm going to probably have to learn as I go forward as a newly shaved man. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I do end up burning up. The bat's back in place. We purchased this today from Sports Direct because we're going to have another little whack around after this, yeah? Yeah? Yeah.
So we've got a proper bat from the charity shop.
There it is. Beautiful. Neither of us know how to use it, really.
No.
But maybe we'll learn. So, you mentioned Phillips.
Yeah.
And he did all right?
Yeah, he did really well. I really like Glenn Phillips. He's a crazy character. He does a bit of everything. He started out as a wicket-keeper batter, kind of like short form. Duck just flew over us. Short form specialist, and then he swapped the gloves for the ball. And there's not many people really who can bat, bowl, and wicket keep to a good level. And then he suddenly became.
What's it all about?
I'll just continue. He suddenly became, this spin bowling all rounder. Really took loads of wickets in Bangladesh, and he sort of like cemented his place in the team that way. Where in New Zealand are one of those teams, they don't love to play a spinner if they don't have to. They don't really have home conditions that warrant a spinner too often. So he's the perfect man to have there at 7, explosive with the bat and can turn his arm over if needed.
Is that him?
That's him, yeah. Yeah, and he also loves training. He's ripped. He used to do like 200 press-ups a day or something. He's like an amateur photographer. Oh. He's learning to fly.
Wow.
He's got ADHD, I think, which explains a lot. But also, his dad died like pretty much exactly a year ago. So there was a emotional celebration when he reached his 100, which is lovely to see.
Yes.
But yeah, in terms of the innings, it was just a really nicely paced innings. He kind of came flying out the blocks when New Zealand were at danger of kind of wasting a strong position because the pitch was kind of flatter than we expected it to be, and actually batting first, even though both teams would have chosen to bowl first, batting first wasn't necessarily a bad thing. You sorted?
Keep going.
But then he really reined it in towards the end of that day. When Archer was bowling a fiery spell of bouncers, I think most England batters would have succumbed to that, got a little bit carried away or got overawed by the occasion or the hostility of the bowling and hit one up in the air. But he just ducked everything. He even called for his sunglasses out because there was some glare coming off the sight screen. So he was batting in these massive shades, And then Archer bounced him first ball after he put the shades on. I think he didn't like that. But either way, he found a way to get through it, and then he cashed in on England's poor bowling on day 2. Oh, I think the pitch might be getting robbed.
Oh no! They haven't even got. They've got. That's a football, mate. That's not. I think I'm working now. Yes, I'm working now.
Yeah, and then got to his 100, and then holed out straight after. But he was batting with the number 11 at that point. So yeah, it was just a brilliantly thought out and paced innings, and the kind of thing that, even though he's an aggressive batsman, he showed the sort of nous that I think maybe some England batters are still lacking.
You did really well there, Charlie, because I was gone for about a couple of minutes there, just trying to figure out my setup. For some reason, it disconnects every so often. Last time we did this, it stopped, but that was through a system overload, so I was just on the wrong setting. That was my fault. But this is just occasionally. I mean, that they're roller skating on the cricket pitch. This is fine while we're here doing this.
Really, I hope that's going to play differently.
They're affecting conditions, aren't they? There's divots.
The light roller has been put on.
Exactly. I was just getting my eye in as well with the ball, so I need to adjust my line and length. Should we go on Stokes watch? Let's go on Stokes watch because he's been doing a bit of county cricket, hasn't he? Yeah,
well, I wrote this down. I'm just going to get comfy here. Yeah, I wrote this down because it was actually the media themselves that were on Stokes watch. So we're maybe on Stokes watch here.
We're on Stokes watch.
But it was really interesting, considering we were mid-test match, the amount of eyes that were on one particular county championship match was pretty remarkable. And they were keeping an eye on Gus Atkinson as well. But they were... when I first turned TMS on that morning, the sound quality was really poor. And I was like, what's happened here? Are they having issues with the mic? But it turned out it wasn't the TMS team that was speaking. It was the Radio Durham team that they'd called into. And it was the Radio Durham commentator and a cricket journalist who's called Matt Henry, who works for the BBC, different Matt Henry, who's also from up there. So they were at the game just talking about it. And they were saying that... They had to open a second press box because there were that many press there.
Wow.
40 plus, and there'd usually be... Well, I've been in the Yorkshire press box, not to flex or anything, recently, and there's 6 or 7 people there. So to have 40 for a county game is pretty remarkable, especially considering, we didn't know whether he was going to be bowling or batting or what. And then they kept cutting to that team up there when they could, and also... just relaying any information that happened regarding Stokes. And then on the TV, on Sky, they were feeding in pictures of the county game, which, once again, that's the drop-off in quality is immense because that's just a live stream online. So we're just seeing these really grainy images of Ben Stokes walking around the field. And he was literally doing nothing but fielding at this point. Yeah. So it just kind of shows, the hold he has over English cricket. And it was just remarkable. Yeah, it kind of just showed perfectly the situation. And then it was just, you couldn't write it really with the way that as it fell apart for England, he made his best score in over a year since he got that 100 against India. He hit 95. I mean, at least he didn't quite get 100. That would have been too ironic. And Atkinson did well as well, took wickets. And also, the Durham people, because I think I actually didn't upload... To go behind the scenes here, I didn't upload a reel that you made for us
because we were kind of laughing and joking.
About the situation, but then the tone had become more serious in the days that followed, and it was mainly because Brendan McCullum in a press conference had really put the emphasis on Stokes' mental health, and just said, I hope he's okay. That was all he was saying. And people at Durham were asked about that, and they were just like, I don't know what you're on about. He's fine. He's an incredibly positive man. Yeah. He's come here as he always does, to work hard and train hard. And because we've got him, we're lucky enough to have him at a point in the season when we wouldn't usually. We're going to give him a game because he's a great cricketer. And they were like, we really don't know what all the fuss is about.
Do you think it was a media management thing, to take the sting out of it and be to direct the story away from Stokes and make it more about, I hope he's okay, than silly boy?
I don't know, to be honest. I think actually from, it's an impossible situation to manage for England, but I still think, they've not done an amazing job in some respects.
Which just seems like a very English thing. Yeah. Dealt a bad hand, play it terribly.
Yeah, exactly. And And I just think the way they've allowed it to rumble on throughout the whole Test match, when, if they thought they were going to allow Stokes and Atkinson to play the next game, it should have just been a one-match ban to begin with.
Yeah.
We've known for a long time now that, they weren't involved in the punch-up themselves. They were just wrong place, wrong time, but they did break the curfew.
Yeah.
Just say that's a one-match ban, they'll be back for the third Test, something like that. Maybe they didn't want to undermine the team that was playing or root as captain, but it felt like they were being undermined.
Yes.
And even the fact that, the squad announcement was made pretty much as soon as the Test ended, and it was like, it was kind of hanging over everyone, really. So, yeah, difficult situation, but I think McCullum's press conference the other day wasn't helpful, where he just kept saying,
I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay.
Yeah. But it was quite funny, because it made me think of, I don't know if you've ever seen a meme, and being a man, a slightly wistful man at times, you might relate to this. That it's like a very serious meme, but it's one or like a cartoon, but one that's been memed over the years about how, one day after a breakup, the man's doing amazing and the girl's crying in her room, and then over time,
swaps over.
Yeah, he becomes distraught as he realises what he's lost, and she starts to live her life.
Too real, man.
Yeah. It felt like that happened where in this game, where it was, like Stokes' mental health was in question. He was upset at what happened in England, had all these shiny new faces. They had Sonny Baker, who, was really happy, and he just kept smiling.
Perfect name for a guy like that.
Yeah, exactly. And, we had all these new guys, and Jacob Bethel's taking wickets, and maybe it's all fine. And then as the game went on, you sort of saw in the Test match and in the county games what England were missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly they were missing something quite special, and hopefully he can reproduce that, because one of the big question marks really around him, as he's had a poor form with the bat recently, but found it. Do you think that's just because it was county level, or do you think he could turn it around?
One of the issues with Stokes is that he just doesn't really play any cricket anymore other than Test matches. So how is he supposed to get any rhythm or form back in? Obviously he missed. It was because of his injury that he didn't play as much county cricket this summer as he might have. So maybe it'll be a blessing in disguise, really, for Stokes to have gone and have a game.
I hope so. It'd be nice to see him make a significant contribution to the next Test, because after all of that, I think the country and the players and the fans will rally behind him, I imagine.
Yeah, I think other
than one particular person who we'll get onto.
Yes, I think the general consensus is that people are happy to let him get by with a slap on the wrist. John Hogan, who was on commentary with today, doesn't think so. He thinks it's the time to move on from Stokes, because he's old anyway. But I think this game just perfectly showed why England still need him.
Did Hogan back himself despite Stokes' performance for Durham?
Well, this was after. I think he just said, it was just too...
Cut your losses.
Well, he broke his own rules, I think, was his main argument, and that's just...
He's Boris Johnson himself.
Too rich, yeah, exactly. But I think... And I think a lot of people think that, Stokes should be back in the fold.
I think Stokes should be back in the fold. I like him. So, someone who possibly doesn't like him as much is a legend of the game, Charlie.
Yeah, Ian Botham, who is part of the kind of great England modern, if you want to call it, even though he was back in the 80s, modern kind of all-rounder triumvirate of Botham, Flintoff, Stokes. And you can kind of have your arguments about who's better, I think.
Have your arguments about who's better?
I think probably... It's interesting. Interesting question. I think Botham's definitely...
The question that you've somewhat...
I think Botham was definitely the most all-rounder maybe ever. Like the amount of times that he got 5 wickets and 100 in the same game is pretty much unmatched by anyone. But I think probably, even though, and you could probably argue that Botham's the best bowler as well. But I think you could maybe say that Flintoff is the most exciting bowler, and to have a 90 miles an hour bowler as your all-rounder is pretty incredible. And you can argue that peak Stokes was probably the best any of them ever got as a batsman when he was doing the things he was doing in the Ashes and the World Cup.
Single-handedly dragging us to,
And, he actually threatened to average, over 40 at a point. And if he'd finished his career with an average over 40 as an all-rounder, that would have been amazing. But it's dropped off significantly since then to about 35-odd. They're all amazing, basically.
They're all amazing.
For different reasons. And they've all had their hands at captaincy. Stokes has probably been the best captain. Flintoff probably the worst, bless him. But yeah, it's relevant now because Botham was actually, one of a handful of people to really criticise him. Let me get up what he said.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this, and you said, I want to save... I've read what he said since, but you also mentioned that if you look back at the stuff that he's done, he hasn't got much of a leg to stand on, which I'm interested to hear.
Yes. He says he doesn't see how you can justify what happened. And it's really notable because he is or he has been in the past, I don't know if he is right now, the chairman of Durham.
Right.
So he's sort of really going, while everyone else at Durham's kind of rallying around Stokes and saying, it's great to have him back, he really had a pop at him.
He's Roy Keane.
Which was surprising, yeah. And he said, some people just don't learn, do they? It's as simple as that. We as a club, brackets Durham, when we had the problems in 2017, when he had his actual nightclub punching incident, we stood by him, I stood by him, the whole team stood by him, I was chairman then, everyone supported him. I just don't see how you can justify what happened after the game at Lord's, especially when you were probably very much in charge of when the curfew is. That's fair enough, but the bit that really got me was, he said players of his era used to love going out for a drink, but said they weren't quite so obvious compared to the current generation.
Let's see if that's...
So I just did a little bit of digging, because I'd heard stories about what
they were being joined by a Holly.
Oh, hello.
There's a Holly Hughes on the way.
Some of the things that he got up to during his playing career. He was banned for 12 months in 1986 for smoking weed.
I mean, already that goes so far beyond.
I think trying to say that you weren't obvious about it. If you're actually getting banned
caught for drugs
a year, then that's about as obvious as you can get.
Yes.
Hello,
Holly.
He hosted a barbecue. There used to be rest days in the middle of a test match. Like there'd be 2 or 3 days, and then they'd have a rest, and then they'd do the last 2 days.
Interesting.
In the middle of one of the Ashes Test matches in 1981, he had a barbecue for the English and Australian players at his house.
Right. Okay.
Which is quite wholesome, to be fair.
It is, but I can't imagine that went down well with the...
well, no, but it used to just be way more of a thing that they would just hang out all the time. Mid-series, they would drink together. But that's been lost now. So that was a kind of all right one. And that was one example that we've talked about before about, if you're going to do that, just back it up with winning, because that was midway through the game when he scored 149 not out at Headingley and then won England a game that they never should have won, basically.
Right.
So we got away with that one. But he had a long-standing feud with Ian Chappell, the Australian player. An Australian player. At one point, there's two accounts of it. Either side have a different account, of course.
Let's hear.
But Ian Chappell was saying that Botham put a glass to his throat and warned him he would cut him from ear to ear. An accusation Botham vigorously denied. The day after resort to that, he wrote in his autobiography, is the day I know there's something wrong. After a few more words, either Botham punched Chappell and sent him flying backwards off his chair into a crowd of Aussie rules players, scattering their drinks, Botham version, or he pushed him backwards off the chair and got hysterically angry, brackets Chappell's version.
Right, okay. Neither of them paint him in a great light, I have to say. I also found it interesting, obviously, that is ridiculous when you look at the things that Botham did and, well, I was going to say got away with, but he didn't really get away with them by the sounds of it. He got banned for a year. Mm-hmm. But I also found it interesting that he says himself, we stood by him when he actually punched someone outside a nightclub. Mm. We backed him. We had no problem at all. But then on the one where he was actually not involved in any way, that's when it's gone too far.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
And one more was that they had a warm-up game in Bundaberg in Australia, and that's famous for rum, apparently. So apparently Botham was insisting that the team sampled the local product. He said everyone must drink their rum. This is Gladstone Small's account. He's an old fast bowler. So the boys are knocking Bundaberg back and everyone's fairly pissed by the end of it. We got in this coach to go back to the hotel and the mayor's waving goodbye. Suddenly David Gower, former England captain, opens his window and throws up all over the place with the mayor looking on.
Brilliant. That's not very quiet either, is it?
So they got up to a lot back then, and I think, it's a complete just old man misunderstanding the way the world's changed. You can't be subtle about these things anymore, because they weren't being subtle, but there was just, no one had phones in their pockets recording everything they did. And so it just kind of disappeared. And we heard only about a lot of these stories when the players decided that they wanted to tell them when they were older. Yeah. And that's just not an option anymore for modern players. No, absolutely isn't. You've got eyes on you everywhere, haven't you? Especially a high-profile cricketer. So while Stokes was
playing county cricket and doing so in quite positive fashion. England slumped is the word that you've used here to 291 all out. So yeah, the differences couldn't be more stark, could they?
Yeah, not at all. I think we'll kind of breeze past this because it was just bad batting, really. Not much to say, just good relentless bowling, and England crumbled. But Emilio Gay ran out Ben Duckett. That was very costly. Ben Duckett was going really nicely, 36 off 25, and Gay had just been completely stifled at the other end, and he tried to scamper a quick single and got Ben Duckett run out, which is just... It's
inexperience, do you think? Or
inexperience,
hubris?
Not hubris, just, it could happen to any batsman who's just desperate to score a run, but I guess it's also something that England should really remember, is that you can get wickets just by generating pressure from good bowling. If you keep someone on strike and he's not scoring, then he might make a mistake that way.
Desperation.
Other than that, Jacob Bethell got 9 and the knives are out for him on the BBC Live reporting thing. I just thought it was absolutely ridiculous. I love reading them, don't get me wrong, but I very, very rarely see a text come through on the BBC Live page from a fan and just think, you're a fucking idiot, and don't think you're a fucking idiot. So it's just like the short-sightedness is ridiculous.
It's reactionary, isn't it? It's a reactionary. Only reactionary people get involved
and
with
only they get put on, I guess, as well. But yeah, we're 4 innings on from his masterclass at Sydney.
Yeah.
Including 2 innings at that Lord's pitch where no one could score any runs, and the knives are just completely out from people saying, he's not a test number 3. But I think not to give too much airtime to these people, but I think the solutions they were offering just show exactly why they don't know anything about cricket.
Yeah.
One of them saying that Bethell should make way for Cox and that Stokes should bat at 3. It's like the Stokes at 3 argument was a thing back in 2023 when he was batting well and he couldn't bowl because he was injured.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, fair play, that makes sense. And also Ollie Pope was injured for halfway through the Ashes. But now, he's bowling more than ever. That's the thinking behind dropping him to 7. He's actually way more important as a bowler now. He's got no form with the bat. So suddenly shooting him up the order.
I mean, that's not just a promotion. That's that's ridiculous to go from 7 to 3.
It is insane. And then the other option someone else suggested was that Bethell should be in there as like a number 7 spin bowling all-rounder, like Moeen Ali style. And it's like, okay, well, what's happened in this game? He's took a few wickets, he's not scored any runs, so now he's a bowler.
Yeah.
It's like, if you watch the wickets, he's not any good as a bowler. Well, not he's not any good, but it wasn't the wickets of a bowler.
It's someone who's just looked at the teletext and gone, oh, he's taken a few wickets. Oh, he's gone out. Yeah.
Well, why are we playing him as a batter? He's clearly a bowler.
Watch the bloody game.
Yeah. And then, it's just a real succession of people getting starts and getting out, which, to be fair, happened in New Zealand's first innings as well, but no one was able to go on and really convert. Root 46, Brook 24, Root 24, Cox 27. It's just disappointing. The only man other than Gay who got to 50 was Matthew Fisher, the batsman. And he batted nicely, but I think the ball was dead at that point, and there's always the old adage in cricket where, when the bowler starts playing some shots, it's almost kind of dread for the team, because it's like, well, we've got to go out and bowl on this, and it's clearly flattened out.
Yeah.
That was all there was to say about that, really. Just a thoroughly disappointing first innings.
So, as we mentioned at the top of the show, top of the pod, circumstances sort of out of the control of McCullum and Stokes. Well, I guess they were in Stokes' control somewhat. Meant there had to be a lot of changes. So let's have a look at how the new people, the debutants who came in, fared. How did they get on, do you think, Charlie? Should we break them down? Yeah,
I thought we'd do this at this point because, they'd all had a bat and a bowl at this point. So it seems fair, but not great.
Not great. Let's leave it there.
Yeah. So starting with the bowlers, Sonny Baker, he did exactly what everyone thought he would, which is bowl with tremendous heart. Love every second of it, like even today when he was out there batting, he was still smiling with his team on the verge of a massive defeat, and that's nice to see, and I'm sure he's got a bright future ahead of him. But I thought, he looked fairly kind of what's the word? Ineffective in this game. I think maybe just wasn't really the right pitch that suited him. Obviously, he would have loved the Lord's Test, especially as a shorter, skiddier bowler. And I think, again, not to harp on Root too much, but it probably would have helped him to have Stokes as captain in his first game to set some different fields. And I thought he did well in the first innings, got a couple of wickets, but in the second innings it kind of fell away a little bit and he started to get carted around. How much of that was to do with kind of the overs he was being asked to bowl and what way he was bowling them. I mean, it definitely went better than his ODI and T20 debuts, which were calamitous last year. So that's good at least. And yeah, I think he's one that definitely won't be moved on from. But maybe, I don't know, 5 out of 10, I would say, for the first innings. He hung around with the bat as well. He's got an average of 4 in first class cricket, but he really likes to hang around. He can't score any runs. He's sort of like me in that regard, except I can't hang around either. But yeah, no, I think I really liked him and he's definitely got a place in this team in the future. I think Matthew Fisher is someone that doesn't, unfortunately. I think they tried him 4 years ago in one test and it didn't work. He's just someone who really looks like a county bowler. He's got the point of difference in that he's tall, but you know, his first spell on day one, it was just really harmless. And when you contrasted it with Archie from the other end, you know, Fisher was just running in, bowling on a wide line from around the wicket, swinging it really late, and the batsman could just leave it.
Right.
Because it was like swinging by the time it was already sort of getting near to being past the stumps, and he just looked harmless, to be honest. And then he batted well, but you know, that's not why he's in the team. And then he got a few in the second innings, but it was when New Zealand already had more than enough to win the game, and they were just kind of hitting out. And I honestly don't think we'll see much, if any, of him again in an England shirt. It was a weird one. I felt bad for him because no one was even really that excited that he was playing in comparison to the 3 debutants.
Is that because we tried him out before, though?
It was a bit more of a known quantity, yeah, and I think it was more, you know, there's a lot of people, be it, you know, Wisden, who I listen to them a lot, and they were based around the Oval, so they see a lot of Surrey players specifically. And then, you know, you've got people like Mark Butchery and Ward who are on the Sky team, and they played for Surrey as well, so they've seen lots of him, and everyone was just kind of saying, you know, he's perceived to be unlucky, but, you know, how unlucky can you really be? And I can sort of see watching him in this game that why you think he's unlucky, because, you know, he's not going for many runs, and you think maybe he's beating the bat, but it's ultimately he's not going for any runs because he's not putting it in areas where he's troubling the batsman or the batsmen are trying to attack him. He's just a very defensive bowler. And I don't think that's what England are looking for. Obviously, you know, there's still a space in that team for the person who's going to be that more county-style, accurate seamer, but that seems like it's going to be Ollie Robinson. And I think, yeah, you do need a backup in the squad because of his injury issues, but I think maybe look at someone else, like a Sam Cook.
Yeah.
There's more. There's more. Thomas Root. No, he didn't play. His brother played. James Root had a really, really tough game. I felt bad for him. Shelled quite a few catches behind the stumps. He's another one, unfortunately, as it seems most of the best wicket-keeper batter options for England can't actually keep wicket very well. And there'll be people out there...
It's a big part of the job.
Yeah. There'll be people out there screaming for Ben Foakes to come back because he is the pure wicket-keeper. But, yeah, he really struggled with the gloves, and I actually thought they should have swapped around him and Cox in the second innings because I think it was a bad enough performance with the gloves. He didn't drop them in the first innings, but he was conceding a lot of byes, which means, you know, basically when you concede runs not off the bat, but they've kind of like the ball's gone somewhere in the pitch and the batsmen are able to run, or it goes to the boundary.
Right.
And if it's kind of like, if it's the bowler's fault because it's so far either way, then it's a wide.
Yeah.
And if it's just gone through or in the area of the wicketkeeper, it's byes. And he conceded a lot of them. Okay. And I actually thought it was a good time to swap out for Cox because, you know, they're having a look at Jordan Cox as well, and he can also keep wicket. And I think they could have easily said, you know, both players making their debuts, both players potentially might be dropping out the team for the time being after this, so let's just have a look at both of them. But they didn't do that, and he ended up dropping a few, or at least a couple of chances that he should have taken in the second innings, which cost England. And then with the bat, he was unlucky in the second innings. He got one that kept low, but in the first innings he looked very troubled by a spell of short ball bowling from Will O'Rourke, which is kind of the thing that everyone says you don't get in county cricket, and that's kind of the big unknown quantity about players when they transition to Test cricket. And people say Test cricket's like played above the waist, basically, and he seemed to really struggle with that, so that's not a great sign. Then Jordan Cox, his numbers don't jump off the page either. He got 20 odd in the first innings, same as Rue, and then he ran out of partners in the second innings. It was a thankless task, really. He just ended up trying to hit out and got out in the end. But I think that he's the one who looked most like a Test match batsman, like a Test match player, out of anyone who debuted or made one of their first appearances in this Test. I just thought he looked assured, confident. He was fortunate to be, batting as a specialist number 7. That's a very cushy position. But either way, I think there's a future in there. He kind of forced his way back into contention before the game by hitting 200 off, like 204 off not very many balls against Leicestershire, my beloved Leicestershire, getting absolutely trounced. But I think they might have won today. So yeah, he kind of forced his way back in. But then also, to be fair to James Rue, he was put in a weird situation where he was the spare batsman in the squad. But then when the initial team announcement was made, it was actually Cox in, not him. He only got in because of Jamie Smith and the paternity thing. So maybe that rocked his confidence a little bit. But yeah, again, I think he'll be back. But I think right now, I would probably move on from Fisher and Rue for now, and I would have Cox as the spare batter in the squad, because I think you can slot him in anywhere more comfortably than Rue, and I would definitely persist with Sonny Baker, but he's certainly got a long way to go to be in England's first choice 11. And
do you think any of them will be in for the next Test?
Well, we'll talk about the squad in a second, because I haven't actually looked at it yet.
Okay, nice. Well, you do that. But also there's a couple of bits to get onto here with Henry Nicholls, and also the fact that England absolutely slumped once again to a heavy defeat in the 4th innings. But there was a silver lining slightly for Root as well. So let's get into those first. So we start with Henry Nicholls.
Yeah, so I actually got it wrong in my little Kane Williamson video that I did for the start of the last podcast. I thought it was going to be Will Young that came in.
Yeah. I want to do a reference, but I don't know any of his songs.
Yeah, I
know he went on Top Gear. Yeah,
him.
Jeremy Clarkson fancies him.
I thought it was going to be him because I thought he'd be sort of the next man in, even though he's not young. Ironically, he's 30 odd, 33 I think. But it just seemed like he's been the spare batsman for a long time, or he's come in for a bit. It's not really worked, but he did really well in India when they won that series 3-0. When Williamson wasn't there. So I just thought it would be that. But actually they made yet another very New Zealand selection and picked a guy in Henry Nicholls who's played loads of Test matches before, and kind of he was actually dropped after scoring 150 not out against Zimbabwe, I think to make way for Rachin Ravindra in the team, which is fair enough, because I think Ravindra, now that Williamson is gone, is New Zealand's best batsman. So yeah, he was kind of He was discarded. Well, you never discard as a New Zealand player. He was taken out of the side, and now as soon as Williamson's gone, they're like, well, he's the next best batsman, so he's back in. Simple as that. England probably would have picked a project player. They would have picked someone in their mid to early 20s and said, we want you to have this number 3 or position for 10 years, like someone like Bethel. But New Zealand were just like, nah, he's good, so we'll have him back, and he rewarded them instantly with 120 odd. In the 3rd innings. Obviously, by the time his innings was done, the game was done really, but there was a little bit of jeopardy when he came in. England had got a couple of early ones and looked like maybe, putting some New Zealand under some pressure, but he just completely, blew out the candle.
Blew out the candle, he did, and it was a rather lame candle in the end, wasn't it, Charlie? Because England slumped, didn't they, to a heavy defeat.
Yeah, once again I did some spotlight for commentary, and once again it lasted. It lasted even less long this time, which is quite embarrassing, really. When
another
you consider,
fist pump from you, another
he
celebration.
Was living life. He was suddenly a New Zealand supporter today.
Yeah,
but he was just like, well, I just like to see the best team winning.
Now you don't. You want to leave. We know what you want.
But yeah, it is quite embarrassing, really, that New Zealand on that 4th day at Lord's, 5 wickets down, and the pitch doing all sorts, managed to last an hour and a half, and England on this pitch, which was starting to offer some variable bounce, lasted about 50 minutes, especially considering Joe Root was not out at the start. That kind of gave you some hope that it could go on for a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not complaining. I mean, it's worked out well for
Got
me.
paid for it.
We're out in glorious sun. I mean, we were talking about, imagine what would the worst possible outcome be, that England's 10th wicket partnership managed to drag it into the final session and then get out at the end.
Yeah.
So at least that didn't happen. But yeah, as you alluded to, Joe Root crossed 14,000 test runs in the process, which is kind of like a perfect metaphor, really, for his time as an England player.
Because you said about, like, during his captaincy, it would be he would come in, you know, with no runs on the ball and have to just take the team on his back and carry us. Was there a sense of that? Was he still our classiest performer with the bat, would you say?
Absolutely, yeah. 77 was the most that anyone managed in an England shirt in this game. And in the end, he got out. He was just getting peppered by Matt Henry. Oh, and we need to talk about something, actually, that I forgot to put in the document, so we'll do that now.
Yeah.
England have a real problem with the keeper standing up to the stumps. They just can't figure out what to do.
Okay.
And New Zealand were the first team to do this, actually, in 2023, because a big part of baseball is either dancing down the track to put the seamers off their length, or just batting outside of your crease anyway, because that negates LBW. It makes it harder to get out LBW, because they've got a ball of fuller length in at your pads, which then you can just clip away. Or if you do get hit on the pads, it's probably bouncing over.
Yeah.
There's even if you're 2 metres away from your stumps, you just can't be out LBW at all. So New Zealand thought of a fix, which they used in the second test in 2023, as they became the first team to stop England from doing a big chase, basically. Because they were going to chase 200 odd to win that series, but then New Zealand managed to win by 1 run. It was an amazing game. That I stayed up all night to watch the chase, and it was like 3:30 in the morning when the last wicket fell, and I was just like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Because I thought it would be, I thought I could watch the first session, then it would be obvious whether we were going to win or lose, and then I would go to bed.
Yeah.
But then the whole time it was on a knife edge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking back, I don't regret it.
No, I mean, you were 1 run away from seeing, or 2 runs away from seeing the most unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know.
And it still was unbelievable. It just didn't go how I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's something that teams did and then kind of forgot about a bit, and then it came back in big fashion in the Ashes with Alex Carey standing up to Boland and Nisa. And it just makes some of these England batsmen look like different players. Harry Brook just doesn't know how to play cricket with the keeper stood up. He just goes completely into his shell, becomes a very timid batsman. And Joe Root struggles with it as well, not to the same extent. But again, that really brings LBW into play, because you can't stand anywhere other than right in front of your stumps, which means if you get hit on the pad, you're probably out. And it happened to a number of players.
Why don't more teams do that just across the board?
I think more teams will try it now. I think, the cat's out of the bag really in a big way after this last 6 months. But you need bowlers who can just hit the stumps over and over again. Which England feels like England don't have, but New Zealand and Australia definitely have. But you also need a really, really good wicket keeper. That's the thing. Thomas Rue was doing a bit of standing up to the stumps in this game, and he really struggled.
Okay,
it's not as easy as it looks to be able to take a ball at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
When between it passing the bat and going into your gloves is a split second. So to be able to take it with no deflection and just not concede byes is amazing, but to be able to catch an edge, stood up to the stumps like Blundell did.
That's incredible reactions, isn't it?
And technique, where you're just you're kind of moving with the ball, and so that when the ball gets there, because the edge, the one good thing about standing up is the edge doesn't have much time to take effect, so it won't move that much.
Slight little diversions,
And I think if England did want to employ that tactic themselves, albeit maybe they don't have the bowling attack for it, then it would have to be a case of getting Ben Folkes back in. But I do think that it's something that other teams will try and that England need to address. Matthew Fisher actually showed the way to do it, because he tried to ramp and he ended up just hitting Blundell straight in the chest.
Right.
And Blundell asked next ball if he could go back. So I do just think that England need to be a bit more brave about it. Just dance around the track anyway.
Yeah.
Because what that means is that the wicketkeeper has to stump you, which again, standing up to the stumps is really hard. It would be a bad way to get out, sure, but it means they've got to take the ball and then they've got to whip the bails off all before you get back in your crease, which is hard to do off a seamer. So
I'm surprised that with England's whole baseball thing being do your own thing, do your game plan and stick to it no matter what, they didn't just automatically go into that.
Well, I think it kind of just exposes the one, the one note nature of baseball, in that did it really at the end of the day just boil down to dancing down the track, and as soon as you can't do that, it's kind of dead as a philosophy, maybe.
Maybe. Interesting. I'm intrigued by the 14,000 run mark. I mean, there was a big thing about will Root catch Tendulkar? Will he be the all-time sort of like run scorer? Is he doing that? Is he is he doing it at enough of a rate, do you think, to get there before time inevitably catches up with him?
So I think his rate, there was a point when it was that if he scored at the same rate that he had been doing for however long, since Bazball maybe, he'd do it in the home Ashes in 2027, which obviously would be an amazing story, and potentially, if England won that series with Root becoming the all-time leading run scorer in the process, that might be a good time to walk away from the game.
Yeah.
It now seems like he's slowed down a touch, and it would have to be the next summer potentially.
Okay.
I can't see him wanting to go anywhere in a rush. He's still in good form. He keeps himself very fit. He doesn't miss games. He could want to play into his 40s. Whether there'll just come a time when it leaves him, the desire, like it did with Kane Williamson, or just the ability maybe. But he's certainly still within a massive shout of doing so.
Nice. I would love to see that. I'm sure we all would. So finally, I suppose we should talk a little bit about the next one, the next test, and looking at the team sheet, which came out about an hour and a half ago.
That was about 35 minutes ago.
We do know that there are two crucial names on that team sheet as another plane passes overhead. Just adding a bit of background noise, adding a bit of realism, a bit of grit to this story. There are two crucial names that are back on the team sheet, but who else is on there?
Yeah, Ben Stokes and Gus Atkinson are back, and crucially as well, Ollie Robinson and Jamie Smith are back. I think you could make a really good argument that the best team to field for this game would be the team that played the Lord's Test.
Yeah.
And just make those 5 changes straight back. I think you probably want a spinner in there. I think England, missed a spinner in this game. So that would mean... I'd like to see Rayan Ahmed given a go, to be honest. I think Shoaib Bashir doesn't offer you more as a bowler. I don't think he's more... I don't think he's less raw or more accurate or anything than Ahmed is, and Ahmed can also bat. So maybe that's a change I'd like to see. But other than that, I think they won't make any big batting changes mid-series. It'll be as it was. It's interesting to note that Jordan Cox has stayed in the squad and James Rue hasn't. So, you feel for Rue, really, because he started the summer in the squad and he's dropped out. He's got his chance probably when he didn't expect to, and it's gone so poorly that now he's been dropped. So, yeah, I feel for Rue, but I think that's a sensible decision. I think Jordan Cox makes more sense as a spare batsman. He's more versatile. So, yeah, I think the only real question, I guess, is Josh Tong fit enough to do back-to-back-to-back test matches? I think considering that they kind of rushed in Jofra Archer into this game when he wasn't perhaps quite ready because they had to, I'd be tempted to give him a rest because he bowled a lot in this game. So I would probably... I know I'm garnering a reputation, sorry, for...
You're taking your reputation and just sprinkling a little bit of salt, a little bit of fat.
Garnering a reputation for being very conservative.
Yeah.
But I probably would just go back to the team we had before.
Yeah. Well, Charlie O'Brien as captain, that's what we would see. At least there'd be some consistency.
There is a running joke, I can't remember who it is, maybe Ali Martin, like one of the cricket journalists on Twitter, after every test when people are debating selection, he'll say, here's what I think the 11 for the next test should be, and it's just the 11 that played the test that just happened.
Right.
So I'm doing an Ali Martin, but one back.
One back, yeah. Well, that is the doc exhausted, Charlie. Is there anything else you feel we need to add before we, after talking about cricket, go and play some cricket?
I guess just Matt Henry, brilliant.
Yeah.
5 wickets in each innings after never getting a 5 against England before. The way he stepped up to lead this attack since some of the greats retired, and he actually had a really poor start to his career as well. So that's just very inspiring. He's just a good advocate of just playing good simple cricket as most of the New Zealand players are, and very happy for him. And I think with him, it never looked quite right with him being, the change bowler. He was always an opening bowler. And with him taking the new ball and some of the other maybe more X-factor guys like O'Rourke coming in behind him, it just looks like a really well-rounded attack, I think. And hats off to Matt.
Who's winning the next test?
It's such an interesting question because obviously New Zealand have all the momentum behind them, but you would think that England will be back to the team that beat New Zealand pretty comfortably in the first test. So hopefully it's a real humdinger.
Ding dong battle.
Yeah. But I'm going to back England. They don't lose too many test series at home. The last one they did lose was to New Zealand, actually, but that was a 2-match series, and they're a much, much worse side than they are now. I think even though, they're far from perfect.
I think either that's strong disagreement or strong agreement from the Crows. We can't tell which. I don't speak Crow personally, but they've descended upon us after that prediction.
Yeah, they've spoken unison.
Yeah, they really have, and here they are. The sign of death. Maybe it's just to say, wrap it up now, lads, or we're going to kill you.
Yeah, it's been a long one.
It has been, well, what, about an hour, I think, if I had to guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, just over. Well, thank you very much for joining us in these beautiful conditions. As we said, the pitch has been affected by rollerblades, but they have cleared off now, so we've got it to ourselves, and we can shoo the Crows away and have a game. But yeah, thanks for watching, and thanks for joining us, and speak to you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Abosh.